You were talking about the Western world and what we rely on wheat, right?
Yeah,
But for some reason, everybody all of a sudden is allergic to wheat, even though we've been eating it, what, at least 5,000 years for sure.
glyphosate, man, it's all the chemical eating your gut apart.
Yeah, I don't know. That might not be true, because if you ask Grok AI and all of that stuff, they won't tell you that anything's wrong with any of this stuff. And
It's
they don't.
not gluten. I'm absolutely unequivocally going to say on the record, it is not gluten. It is the fungicides, herbicides, and pesticides, in addition to the poor soils, depleted soils, and nitrogenous fertilizers that are jacked into the soils to grow it, that is a frankenfood that we're eating.
Well, yeah, and then see,
And it's GM as well.
they don't tell you that. That's not what this says. It blames it on gluten, and it says that's why you're depressed. That's why you're getting ADHD and schizophrenia, and
Well, yeah, if your gut's
you're
all tweaked out,
lethargic.
you're going to get ADHD. If your gut's tweaked, you're not doing anything, because your gut biome is the most important thing for the functionality of your brain. If your stomach and your intestines are out of kilter or out of balance, your brain's following that.
Yeah, I was
Your
looking
brain
for it.
follows what's happening in your stomach, in your gut, and your gut lining all the way through your intestinal tract.
For some reason, I can't find it. Let me look for it. It was an article exactly about your gut biome, and that the scientists discover sixth sense in your gut that makes you want to eat more or eat less or whatever it was talking about. Because they're barely touching on the importance of the fact that I've read articles and papers written that say that your organs, like your stomach, your liver, all of that stuff, is actually literally part of your brain. So your brain isn't just the part that's protected. That's just your cognitive functions, right? It's running, but it's intertwined with all of these other organs that are made out of the same cells, right? And it's an intertwining network that has to all work properly. So if your gut is telling you that things are bad, of course you're going to feel sad, upset, angry, agitated, irritated. You're going to have brain fog. And that's basically what they're saying. But now they're acting like they just discovered something to find out that you may have actually a sixth sense in your stomach, that makes you feel uneasy about things, or maybe you feel threatened, and your instinct to fight or flight may start happening when you sense a situation. Well, how's that going to happen if it's completely destroyed and you got, what do they call that? The leaky gut stuff. I mean, like, I saw a paper the other day that said at least 70% of Americans have that problem, either from not having the right gut fauna, taking medications, because one of their organs isn't working right. So the whole thing is like in tap. So now imagine turning off the power, less food, less beef, less nutrition, colder weather, pandemics, war. It's a pretty depressing thought, and it kind of makes sense why in other times people got sick more often and died off from diseases and things during those kind of outbreaks of activity in human behavior. It seems like those are always tied together. You can always go back, like even the volcano thing. If you think about this, yes, it reduces it reduces light from the sun, but on top of that, when it's dark and gloomy, it really does something to the human psyche. It's that doom and gloom feeling. If you get up every day, it's cloudy, it's gray, it's blowing, there's no sun, things aren't growing. Well, the human feels that too, along with missing nutrition because of the same circumstance. So we're like so in tune with nature that it literally needs to be sunny skies and happy days out there for us to be happy, which includes us eating and devouring things that come from that same environment.
Changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes.
And the happy animals. Do you want to eat fear, animals full of fear, and they're not that
No.
great a shape either. And if they're eating that grain, then probably they're having ADHD and depression and all that stuff too. And then we're eating that. Versus like this cow that's running around with its herd having the time of its life out in a field on a ranch somewhere. It's never been kidnapped and injected full of all kinds of medications. It's living a great life until we eat it. That's what I want to eat.
Yeah, I do as well. And for those of you out there, if you're going to order a full beef, like a whole cow, you might want to split it with somebody, because our meat costs, I think I'd have to get it around, it was either 225 a pound or 250 a pound live weight. So if you're gonna, let's do easy math, like 1,000 pound animal, that'd be 20 or $2,500 if it was 250 a pound. And then you need to get it up to a butcher, and they're going to charge you a certain amount to dispatch the animal, and then they're going to charge you by hanging weight to get that thing butchered out. And Ransom can talk far more eloquently about that. But the price for that is $1 a pound right now for the fee. So, Ransom, what would you say if it's 1,000 pound animal? You're going to be hanging weight at 600 or 650, and then that's a buck a pound, and then you're going to get everything from that. And we keep the bones and everything for our dogs anyway, but you're going to get those T-bones and the filet mignons and the ribeyes and everything that you get those cuts. And you can, you got a cut sheet there for a reason. So whatever you want to cut, you want to go rib, you want to go, flanks, or you want to get what they call like Korean cut with a little short rib in them. You're talking $29 for a steak. That is insane. You can get a whole freezer full of steaks. Like, I'm kidding you not. So we need 2 freezers for a full beef, and we even give some to friends and family and stuff. It's too much, but that prices comes down to a few dollars per pound when you do it get the whole entire animal. So what do you think when you're going 1,000 pound animal? You're gonna hang out 650 or something around there, 765. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? So take a look at what they have. alphavedic.com/civilization.
I was thinking you would get 800 pounds plus of food product. I mean, you're counting everything, the head meat, everything that makes food. You would want to save that and make that into a product if you're buying the whole animal. If you're just cutting to just the beef parts, yeah, you would reduce the weight of stuff you're getting, of course. But that's just eating all the good parts, and you could resell or let them have it or whatever. But you said you had dogs.
We
you
take
know,
everything. We take whole bones. We take it all because, we got a
you would be
two
smart
60-pound dogs.
if you had the machinery. You should tell the guy, the butcher, if he has the machinery, that he could saw those big bones and scoop out that marrow and then throw it into what you're making your hamburger meat and out of the trimmings and stuff, and it would multiply the nutrition of that hamburger like a lot. I mean, just think about it.
Well, we do that anyway. We try to boil that down where they cut those bones directly in half, not the long way, vertical way, but get them in there and get that marrow out, and it really sets up a soup base. And I'm telling you, and then after it's cooked off and we extract that marrow, dogs get the rest to chew on, and they'll nibble on a bone, like there's all kind of scapula bones and things. And dogs will nibble on that for like week, those are some big bones, but
right.
You got to start thinking, old school style where you like Ramsey, you don't want to throw anything away. But at the facility they're doing, when they cut the head, they don't let you have the head or the hooves. Otherwise, anything's game. But we try not to keep the stomach. We tried to clean out stomach and do some tripe and stuff, but it was just too gritty from all the, micro sand and stuff that they eat. So we don't do stomach anymore. The only thing we keep is like the heart, the liver, the lungs. We get those for the dogs, stuff like that.
Well, that's how you'll know that we're really starting to go in poor times, because all of those foods that are kind of attributed to poor people, like chitlins and things like that, that all came about because they didn't waste anything. And matter of fact, I did a video one time where I took my family up on the side of the mountain, and this is a survival technique that man has been using for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years, even the animal, is that if you find a skeleton that's already been eaten, all the meat's gone, everything, you can still break open the bigger bones and get out that marrow. And I was showing them that, it's there. It lasts a really long time. You can come across something that looks like, it's been there for several years, break it apart, and there's still a big chunk of yellow, fatty marrow in the bigger bones of that stuff. And you can you can either boil it out, to make sure there's no pathogens in it, or just start frying it. It burns like butter in a pan. Like, you can literally put it right on an iron skillet, get it up, superheat it till it starts smoking. You've killed everything in it, and now you've got a food base. Even if that's the only thing that you're eating, it's better than not having a meat source of some kind.
That'd be solid. Those oils,
Yeah.
you need those oils for your brain anyway. And this is another thing for prepping out there. You're going to need some oils. Like coconut oil is a good one. I store it in the freezer. I don't know what you're doing with oils, but the lard we put in the freezer too. And we render down a lot of our own fats too. Like once we get, we'll get a whole hog, it'll be like 375 pounds or something like that. But we always take the fat with it, and then we'll render down the fat. But there's a huge amount of possibilities, and then we get the chicharrones with that after we render it down. So you get those pork skins. Love those things. I'm not afraid of eating those because it's not coming from factory. It's not baked in seed oils. It's actually coming from the animal's fat itself.
Right.
So hugely, if I was going to say prep something and you only had a handful of items that you could possibly get, oils has got to be right in there at the very top. You need those oils. If you don't have those oils in your brain, you are not going to function, period. You are going to turn into a vegetable if you're just existing on vegetables. You need oil. You need those fats in your brain.
Yeah, not only that, if you don't have meat, but you do have stored, like lard, manteca, whatever stuff it is, even when you put that in your soups or your beans or whatever, it tastes totally different, and your brain recognizes the animal content, and it just makes it a better, more nutritious thing. Not only from a flavor standpoint, it makes you feel like, so if you just did a pot of pinto beans, but you had some lard fat in there, it's going to taste totally different than if you just did it in water.
Please remember civilizationcycle.com, and also buy me a coffee /Civilization Cycle.